Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Good morning, Central Georgia. Welcome to the Weather Impact extended forecast. I'm meteorologist David Guerrero filling in for Alex Pry, who's once again in vacation. And it was a rainy start to this Thursday, and thankfully the rest of the day will be mainly dry with low rain chances throughout. Now we can see this through all the sky cameras across Central Georgia. We are generally having mostly cloudy weather, especially in Perry and downtown Macon. A little bit more sunshine down in Dublin and Warner Robins. The current temperature in Macon, 81 degrees. Dew point values around 76 degrees, meaning it's just extremely muggy outside. And the feels like temperature is getting close to 90 degrees at this time of day. Winds are light, coming from the west-northwest at 8 miles per hour. And the headlines show that it's going to be dry throughout the rest of the day, drier afternoon and a drier evening. But we do have a ton of humidity in place. So we'll have afternoon highs actually into the mid-90s, and then for the rest of the week, we'll be into the lower 90s. But once again, once you combine humidity and actual temperatures together, you'll have really high feels like temperatures. So we're expecting feels like temperatures to reach the triple digits for much of Central Georgia, especially by the afternoon. So taking a look at yesterday's almanac, our afternoon high reached the lower 90s. This is the second day in a row where we hit the 90s. On Tuesday, we hit the 90s, and it was the first time we hit the 90s since August 1st, making it the coolest start in Macon for the month of August. Lows were around the lower 70, 73 degrees, to be exact, so 2 degrees above average. And for the Macon airport, they received nearly an inch of rain. Now, this was all due to a system coming from the Gulf, and it came from the Florida Panhandle. It affected the southern parts of Alabama throughout yesterday morning and eventually reached our area, and it provided some widespread rain, especially in the evening and late night. And you can see the track, the yellow and the darker shades of red, pink, that means higher rainfall totals. So you can see that bunched together, and that just means that the center of that system went directly through Central Georgia. So it first started in Macon County. You see higher rainfall totals there. 3.5 inches of rain fell throughout that time in the evening and the late night. And we received around 4 inches of rain in Macon last night. And then higher rainfall totals were present, especially towards our north places north of I-16. So as you can see, the eastern end of Jones County and the western end of Baldwin County, so just west of Milledgeville, they received around 5.4 inches of rain. And just a little bit north of that in Eaton in Putnam County, 5.7 inches of rain. And it seems like that spot was the spot where they received the most amount of rain so far here in Central Georgia. Now, in terms of the satellite and radar, of course, this system brought in those showers and storms, and they lingered all throughout the early morning as well. And then they started to taper off as we progressed throughout the morning. So right around 5 o'clock, the showers were actually predominantly throughout the south and towards our east. So we had places such as Lawrence County, we had Wilkinson County, Washington County, Treutlen County, Dodge County, Pulaski County, all had rain around the mid-morning. And then for the couple of hours after that, they had showers that continued to linger. Now we are mainly dry here in Central Georgia. Just a couple of sprinkles present right now in Dodge County, just south of Eastman. And we're also seeing some sprinkles that are just south of the county line of Montgomery County. But all in all, dry, cloudy, but I'd say the cloud cover will decrease as we get into the afternoon. Now, here is the system that brought in the rain and the storm throughout the overnight. It is now moving through Columbia, and it's just north of Orangeburg, and it's just proceeding to move eastward into the Atlantic Ocean. So really, it's not a factor anymore for our forecast. It's just bringing in some sprinkles for later today. Today, we're just going to be predominantly dry, and we'll have winds coming in from the west. So the max winds that we're seeing right now are around 14 miles per hour in Cochrane. We're seeing 8 mile per hour winds in Macon, 8 mile per hour winds in Warner Robins. We're not expecting anything in terms of breezy conditions, nothing that will call for anything that will bring in 15 to 20 mile per hour winds. So you're not going to expect anything from the winds to affect the forecast. Now, in terms of the temperatures all across central Georgia, we're seeing that it's warmer a little bit more towards our north, and this is just due to the low pressure system that is causing these temperatures to cool down a little bit, just due to the rain cooled air. And then down to the south, temperatures are right around average for this time of year. Albany 84, Valdosta 85, Brunswick 86, but notice Athens 79 degrees, 78 degrees in Rome. Those temperatures are a little bit lower than what they typically see at this time of year. So the temperatures all across central Georgia, seeing lower 80s for most of central Georgia. A couple of 70s on the board, 79 degrees in Roberta, 79 degrees in Eastman, and 79 degrees in Wrightsville. But once again, I expect us to be within the lower 90s in the heat of the day. Now, if we compare this to 24 hours ago, we're actually cooler. We're seeing values 2 degrees to 5 degrees cooler than this time yesterday, places towards our west. So we have Upson County, Taylor County, western half of Macon County, western half of Monroe County, seeing a slight warm up by just a couple of degrees. But all in all, we're just generally cooler, and we'll see temperatures actually warm up more by the afternoon, and we're actually expecting temperatures to be warmer than yesterday in terms of afternoon highs. Now, one of the things that this system brought into our area is this extreme humidity, the high amounts of moisture from the Gulf. So we're seeing dew point values into the mid 70s. We're also seeing dew point values into the lower 80s. All you need to know if you think dew point values are a little too complicated to understand, it's just dark green. And as you can see, dark green means muggy weather, and you'll really feel it if you walk outside. But it's been something that's been present here in central Georgia all throughout the summertime, with the exception being the first half of August. But with the humidity in place, feels like temperatures are high. We're actually seeing lower 90s already on the board, 93 degrees in Unadilla, 90 degrees in Rochelle, 91 degrees in McRae, 91 degrees in Gordon, and then the majority of central Georgia are within the upper 80s in terms of feels like temperatures. So because of that, we'll see even higher feels like temperatures later today. I'd say we'll be into the triple digits for much of central Georgia. I remember yesterday around the midday show, I saw a couple of triple degree values around noon, which is crazy to see, especially with how cool the conditions were for the first half of August. I do expect a lot more places to reach that triple digit mark by later this afternoon. But in terms of the actual temperatures, we'll be into the mid 90s. I'm forecasting us to be slightly above average, but you just saw that we're going to expect triple digit values in terms of feels like temperatures. So it's still going to be humid and warm, and we'll also have mainly dry weather throughout the afternoon and evening. Much of the rain that was expected for today has already fallen. It was for the early morning hours. So this icon is a little misleading. Just think of this as mostly sunny to partly cloudy weather for the rest of the day. And once again, we're already seeing winds of up to 8 to 10 miles per hour. I think in the afternoon, we'll see winds at 5 miles per hour. So slightly lighter than what we're seeing right now. So here's a look at the future view. That system is moving out towards our east, and we'll have lower cloud cover. So we'll have partly cloudy to mostly sunny conditions for the rest of the afternoon and into the early evening. Can't rule out an isolated shower or sprinkle, but still really low rain chances for the rest of the day. And then we'll have the chance of seeing a little bit more organized showers later tonight, 10 to 11, but really not showing much in terms of coverage. All in all, our rain chances for the rest of the day are very low. which is something different than what we see typically in the summertime. Typically, the mornings are dry, and then the afternoon and evenings are predominantly wet with hit or miss showers and storms. That's going to change. We're going to return to that pattern, that summertime pattern, tomorrow. So notice here, 9 o'clock tomorrow, starting off the day gorgeous. If you wanted to see a sunrise, tomorrow is the day to do so. Once we get into tomorrow afternoon, something that we've seen so many times before in the summer, pop-up showers and storms, and then we could see a couple of outflow boundaries that could cause some of these storms to join together. Now, this model run just now is showing a little bit less coverage in terms of the rain and storms. It actually did this almost exactly yesterday in yesterday's stream, and then for the morning show, it showed a lot more coverage. So I'm really hoping that we don't see this much coverage, or I'm hoping that this model run is right as compared to the morning model run. That way, no football game for the first football Friday night of the season is affected. But once again, this forecast is just a similar forecast to any other day in June and July. Hit or miss showers and storms that will be short-lived in nature, but it could put a dampen on some plans for football Friday night. Now, that model just showed an outflow boundary going through the eastern side of central Georgia. That could happen. That just goes in line to what the past models have shown in terms of outflow boundaries happening later that night. And once again, an outflow boundary is just an unofficial front to say, where it joins other storms and it becomes more widespread, and the late night becomes a little bit more active in terms of storms. So just a classic summer night tomorrow. Same thing for Saturday, hit or miss showers and storms due to the heat of the day by the afternoon and evening. And we could have a couple of outflow boundaries causing some storms to join together once again on Saturday night. Sunday, same thing. So here's the football Friday night forecast. Once again, a classic summer forecast. Scattered showers and storms by the tailgating hour. And then by kickoff, same thing. Temperatures decrease slightly to the mid 80s. And then the storm activity should fizzle out. But if you just saw that model run that just happened a couple of minutes ago, places towards our east, it could potentially see an outflow boundary and could cause some storms to continue by the final whistle. So temperatures will be into the lower 80s once the final whistle occurs. So still just going to be a really warm and humid night for tomorrow. Long range future view shows drier conditions to start off the work week. We're not seeing much in terms of the models, but with the heat and the humidity in place for the start of the work week, we still can't rule out those pop-up showers and storms, but this may tell us that it won't be as widespread or organized as other events from the past. So it's looking predominantly dry for the start of the work week, and then this continues as we get into the middle of next week. So in terms of the projected rainfall over the next couple of days, don't pay attention to the exact location. I know some locations are calling for higher totals than others. So Macon, it says it's going to get an inch of rain, and then Gordon just under an inch, and it says Cochrane, Eastman not getting anything. Really, with the summertime, it's impossible to tell the exact locations. The timing and the locations are random in nature because these storms just pop up because of how high the temperatures are and you have moisture together. So this is a little misleading, but if you do see a shower or storm, you could see a couple of inches of rain. It all just depends on how long it stays and lasts, and also depends on how intense the rainfall is. But once again, this is just going to cover a classic summertime forecast for the next couple of days, where you'll have a couple of downpours that will cause the added rainfall in some spots. But it's just not a guarantee for these areas that are calling for no rain to not receive a rain. If you see 0 inches for Cochrane, 0 inches for Eastman, there's still a chance you'll still see rain in the next coming days. Now, in terms of the temperatures, we're forecasting above average temperatures for today, and then by tomorrow, going back to the lower 90s, and we should stick around into the lower 90s for the near future. And the humidity still staying extremely high. We'll have a slight relief in humidity. A relief actually feels like a stretch to say, because it will just go to relatively humid conditions on Monday, and then by Tuesday we should go back to extremely muggy weather. Now here's a future view feels like temperatures. Once again, we're expecting triple digit feels like temperatures for later this afternoon And then by tomorrow, same thing. As you just saw, that humidity is going to stay muggy, and we'll have temperatures into the lower 90s. Combine that together. Once again, feels like temperatures reaching the triple digits. This model is calling for triple digits in Dublin around midday tomorrow, 99 in Macon. And then by Saturday, same thing, 99 degrees. And I'd say triple digits once again is possible for later that afternoon on Sunday, and in general for Sunday too. In terms of the winds, we're not expecting much. This actually wind value right here, that's calling for an outflow boundary to occur by tomorrow night. And that's calling for slightly breezier conditions. As you can see, gusts are getting 19-mile-per-hour winds because of that outflow boundary. But all in all, winds are not going to be a huge factor to the forecast, except if you receive a storm that does cause some gusty winds. Thankfully, we're not expecting any severe weather in the next couple of days. Now, in terms of the tropics, Tropical Storm Erin, it is now moving through the central Atlantic basin, and it's expected to turn into a Category 1 hurricane by the overnight, more specifically tomorrow early morning. And then once it goes into the Caribbean, it's expected to actually pass north of the Leeward Islands and north of Puerto Rico. So through the weekend, it's expected to strengthen into a Category 2 hurricane, and then eventually on Sunday, a Category 3 hurricane. Now, it's around this time that it starts to do a northward curve. Now, on how or where it's going to go after that northward curve, models do indicate that it's going to go away from the continental United States. And I'll show you that in just a moment. But the reason why it's expected to intensify into a hurricane in the next couple of days is because it's going to get into an area with warmer water. So notice this is the current location. The waters are not cool, to say the least, but it's cooler than the places closer to the coastline. So we'll see once it gets closer to the Leeward Islands and closer to places like Puerto Rico, we'll see temperatures increase to the mid-80s, and that's one of the things that fuels these storms to develop and strengthen into a stronger storm. Now, one of the reasons why we're expecting this to curve northward is because of the atmospheric setup. So a storm, a tropical storm, is just one large storm or one body of low pressure. Now we have two other areas, the two systems of high pressure. We have this system called the Bermuda High, and we have another high pressure system that is forecasted to be along the coast and to be over central Georgia. So once this system tries to go and it goes northward of the Leeward Islands, it will take the path of least resistance because high pressure and low pressure are polar opposites. So it's trying to get away from the high pressure, and we're forecasting this high pressure system to be at a position where the tropical storm will then curve northward and eventually move away from us. But there are some uncertainties within the forecast, as if this high pressure system moves a little bit more towards the east, well, then it could just go a little bit towards the continental United States coastline, and that could provide some impacts for places such as the Carolinas. And I'll show you this with the spaghetti models. Here's the Euro spaghetti model. Most of the ensembles have this going northward in between Bermuda and the Carolina coast, but it's having it just go closer to Bermuda, so not impacting anyone in the continental United States. You do have a couple of models that call it entering the Outer Banks region. We also have the GFS. This has this storm nudged a little bit more towards the west, and you have a little bit more models supporting the idea that's going to go within the Carolinas. But once again, the majority of these models has it coming closer towards Bermuda and not affecting anyone in the continental United States. So all in all, for central Georgia, we will be good. We are not expecting any impacts from Tropical Storm Erin, but for the Carolinas, it may be a good idea to have an extra eye and be extra aware of the forecast. So once again, here's the GFS and the Euro model. Here's what the models are saying in terms of the path of the storm. So it's expected to go northward of the Leeward Islands, and then as it gets close to the coastline, making that northward turn. Now the GFS actually has this getting closer to Bermuda, same thing with the Euro, but notice places along the coastline could receive some rain, and high surf and rip currents from this storm. Now, here's the tropics outlook for places other than the tropical storm. So we have this area of low pressure along the Bay of Campeche. This is due to a tropical disturbance that is forecasted to move across the Yucatan Peninsula. And this is the same area that actually developed Tropical Storm Barry in late June. That went into Mexico, and the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry provided moisture, and that actually caused the flooding for the Texas Hill Country. Now, this area has a low chance of development in the next 2 days and the next 7 days, with a 20% chance of development for both of those categories. So what we're thinking is that it could turn into a tropical depression, but that's the most it will do. Most likely it will cause higher rain chances for the Texas coast and will also provide high surf for the coastline as well. Now, in terms of the frequency, this is around the time where the tropics really ramps up. We are behind schedule in terms of our first average hurricane of the season. So the first average hurricane of the season is around August 11th, and we haven't received our first hurricane yet. But in terms of the overall frequency between August and October, we are on schedule as we average around 11 to 12 named storms per year, per that time. Here's a look at the 7-day forecast. So for today, we'll have high temperatures, feels like temperatures reaching the triple digits. And then for the rest of the day, low rain chances. So it'll be a mainly dry afternoon and evening. Tomorrow, completely opposite. The morning will be dry, mostly sunny, but then we'll have hit or miss showers and storms, a classic summertime pattern. And this summertime pattern continues for Saturday. Temperatures will be into the lower 90s as well, and they'll hover around the lower 90s for the next 7 days. Rain chances decrease slightly on Sunday, and we should have a predominantly dry start to the work week as well, but the humidity is going to stick, and that's still going to cause feels like temperatures around the triple digits as well.